Hello there, my curious friend. Come in, please come in. It is good to see you again. Find your favourite spot, perhaps that soft armchair by the window, or the warm corner where the light is dim and amber. Take a deep breath. Let your shoulders drop. Let the noise of the day fade into the background like the quiet hum of a distant highway. Here inside our little sanctuary of thought, we are safe to wonder. We are safe to look up at the ceiling and imagine it is the infinite canvas of the night sky. I have a story to tell you tonight, a story that is true, yet feels like a dream. It begins not with a bang, but with a whisper in the data, a tiny ripple in the great cosmic ocean. Let us travel back a short distance in time to the first day of July in the year 2025. It was a Tuesday. On Earth, it was a day like any other. People were rushing to catch trains, drinking their morning coffee and complaining about the summer heat or the winter rain, depending on which hemisphere they called home. But high above the clouds and in the quiet air-conditioned rooms of observatories, the world was about to change. The first sign came from the Atlas system. Imagine a network of robotic eyes telescopes that never blink constantly, scanning the dark knowing that the universe is full of moving rocks. Usually these telescopes find ordinary things, asteroids that have been circling the sun for billions of years, dusty and predictable. But on that night, the computers in Hawaii and South Africa flagged something different. The notification did not scream, it simply blinked. A new object had been found. In the control rooms, the astronomers looked at their screens with tired eyes. They are used to false alarms. A glitch in the camera, a satellite reflecting sunlight, a piece of space junk. They leaned in expecting to dismiss it and go back to their lukewarm tea. But the math did not allow them to look away. This object was moving too fast. Most things in our solar system move like a lazy river drifting in comfortable circles around the sun. This object was different. It was moving with a speed that suggested it was not from here. It was falling into our system, diving toward the sun with a velocity that broke the rules of our local gravity. The astronomers felt a cold shiver, the kind you feel when you realize you are not alone in a dark room. They typed commands furiously. They called their colleagues on the other side of the world. "Look at these coordinates," they whispered into their phones. "Tell me I am seeing things." But they were not seeing things. They were seeing a visitor. We call this interstellar. It is a beautiful word, isn't it? It means between the stars. To understand why this moment was so heavy, we must look at history. Before this day, humanity had only confirmed 2 other visitors from the deep void between stars. The first was Oumuamua back in 2017. It was a strange tumbling object shaped like a long cigar or a flat pancake, confusing everyone before it disappeared into the dark. The second was Borisov a couple of years later, but Borisov was just a rogue comet, a dusty snowball lost in space. This new object, which they named 3i Atlas, was different. It was not tumbling wildly like Oumuamua, it was not shedding dust and gas like Borisov, it was stable. It was quiet and it was big. As the days passed and more telescopes turned their glass eyes toward it, the path of 3i Atlas became clear, and that is when the confusion turned into war. We call this the trajectory, the path an object takes through space. If you throw a rock into a pond, it creates a simple splash. If you throw a rock into space, gravity bends its path. Usually a rock falling from deep space would swing around the sun once and fly back out like a boomerang, but 3i Atlas did not just swing around the sun. Before it even got close to our star, it performed a dance. It wove its way past the planets. The data showed that it had glided remarkably close to Venus, the hot clouded planet. Then it corrected its course, or seemed to, and brushed past the orbit of Mars. Finally, it dipped toward the giant Jupiter. It was as if this object was a tourist visiting the monuments of a city, checking them off, a list one by one: Venus, Mars, Jupiter. This is where the silence in the scientific community became deafening. Gravity is a harsh master. To hit 3 specific planetary orbits in a single flyby is incredibly difficult. It requires a precision that nature rarely provides by accident. Professor Avi Loeb, a man with a brilliant mind who has spent his life looking for signs of life beyond Earth, looked at this data. He sat at his desk surrounded by papers and equations, and he calculated the odds. He wanted to know, what is the chance that a random rock drifting alone in the dark for millions of years would accidentally enter our solar system and line up perfectly with Venus, Mars and Jupiter? The number he found was 0.005%. Let me try to paint a picture of what that number means. Imagine you are standing on a beach in New York City. You are holding a small metal dart. You close your eyes, spin around 3 times and throw that dart across the Atlantic Ocean. Now imagine that in a specific pub in London, there is a man holding a small apple in his hand. 0.005% is the chance of your dart crossing the ocean, flying through the pub window and pinning that apple to the wall. It is technically possible, but if you saw it happen, would you believe it was an accident, or would you think someone or something aimed it? The scientific community calls this a statistically significant anomaly. That is a polite way of saying this should not be happening. The trajectory was too clean, the speed was too precise. It used the gravity of our planets not just to move, but to slow down to adjust to look around. It was behaving less like a falling rock and more like a ship entering a harbour. And so as the object called 3I Atlas moved closer to Earth, passing the orbit of the Moon, the feeling on the ground shifted. The excitement of discovery was still there, but underneath it a new emotion was blooming. It was a mixture of deep curiosity and a primal instinct to pay attention. The numbers on the screens were no longer just data points, they were footprints. And where there are footprints, there is a walker. We were no longer looking at a stone. We were looking at a question mark written across the sky in the language of gravity and light. If nature did not throw this dart, who did? And more importantly, why did they aim it at us? The darkness of space, usually so silent and empty, suddenly felt very full. We realized that perhaps we had been given a gift wrapped in the night, waiting for us to untie the ribbon. But to open it, we would have to be brave enough to ask the questions that science usually avoids. Let us pause here for tonight, my friend. Sit with that image, the dart crossing the ocean, the visitor dancing between the planets. The universe is speaking to us. Are you ready to listen to what it has to say next? The arrival of 3I Atlas was not a loud event. There were no explosions, no grand announcements, and no alien fleets darkening the sky. It was just a flicker on a telescope screen, a ghost passing through the night. However, as our scientists and astronomers began to peel back the layers of data, the silence of the object became louder than any shout. To understand the true nature of this visitor, we must look past the rock and ice and look at the behaviour. When we analyse the data and the signals, a chilling possibility begins to take shape. The evidence in the movement to the naked eye 3I Atlas looked like a piece of space debris, but when we look closer at its physical characteristics, the natural explanations begin to fall apart. First, consider the shape. In our solar system, asteroids and comets are usually round or potato-shaped because gravity pulls them together over millions of years. 3I Atlas was different. It was incredibly long and thin like a cigar or a needle. Some models suggested it was flat like a pancake. This ratio of length to width is extreme. In nature, this structure is very fragile. If it were just a loose pile of rocks, the gravity of the sun or the spinning motion would have torn it apart. The fact that it remained solid suggests it was made of something stronger, perhaps something artificial. Then there was the matter of the outgassing. When a comet gets close to the sun, the heat melts its ice. This creates a tail of gas and dust. This gas acts like a rocket thruster pushing the comet faster. We call this the non-gravitational acceleration. 3I Atlas sped up as it left the solar system just like a comet. However, there was a problem: it had no tail. Our telescopes looked for water dust or gas, but they saw nothing. It was a dry object. If there was no visible gas, what was pushing it? This leads to the theory of controlled outgassing. Imagine a ship that vents gas only when it needs to steer, or perhaps it uses a propulsion system that our sensors cannot see. The acceleration was smooth and precise. It did not tumble randomly like a chaotic rock, it moved with a certain elegance. It defied the mathematical models that predict how a dead rock should move under the pull of gravity alone. Finally, we must look at the retrograde orbit. Most objects in our solar system, the planets, the asteroids, the dust, move around the sun in the same direction. It is like traffic on a highway. Everyone is driving in the same lane. 3I Atlas came from above the plane of the solar system and moved in the opposite direction. It was driving the wrong way down a one-way street. This orbit allowed it to sweep past Earth quickly, minimizing the time it spent in the danger zone of our gravity. It offers a perfect vantage point. If you wanted to scan the entire solar system without getting caught in the gravitational pull of the giant planets like Jupiter or Saturn, this is exactly the path you would choose. It was a path of minimum energy and maximum visibility. The dark forest hypothesis. If the physical data suggests that 3I Atlas might be artificial, the next question is, why didn't it say hello? Why did it pass by silently? To answer this, we must turn to a concept known as the dark forest hypothesis. This idea attempts to solve the Fermi paradox. The Fermi paradox is a simple question. The universe is billions of years old and there are billions of stars. By now, other civilizations should have spread across the galaxy. So where is everybody? Why haven't we seen them? The writer Liu Cixin offered a solution that is both gentle and terrifying. He suggested that we should imagine the universe not as a friendly playground, but as a dark forest at night. In this forest, every civilization is an armed hunter. The hunter treads softly through the trees. He pushes aside branches without making a sound. He tries to breathe without noise. He does this because the forest is full of other hunters. If he finds another life, another hunter, an angel, or a demon, he cannot tell if they are friendly or hostile. He cannot trust them. To ensure his own survival, the safest thing to do is to eliminate the threat before it eliminates him. In the dark forest, silence is safety. To be loud is to be dead. If this hypothesis is true, it explains the behavior of 3E Atlas perfectly. A highly advanced civilization would not broadcast its location. It would not send a ship with bright lights and loud music. It would send a ghost. A probe that is dark, cold, and difficult to detect. It would look like a rock. It would hide in plain sight. When humanity looked at 3I Atlas, we were confused because we expected aliens to be like us, loud, curious, and eager to talk. But perhaps the survivors of the galaxy are the ones who learn to keep their mouths shut. 3I Atlas was not silent because it was empty. It was silent because it was smart. The scouting mission. If we accept the possibility that 3I Atlas was a military or scientific probe, we must ask what was its mission. It was likely a scout. In military strategy, you never send your main army into unknown territory without seeing it first. You send a scout. A scout is small, fast, and expendable. His job is to gather data and return home or transmit that data back to the masters. What was 3I Atlas looking for? First, it would assess the physical geography. It would map the positions of the planets, the gas giants, and the asteroid belts. It would verify if this solar system is stable and if it contains valuable resources. Second, and more ominously, it would assess the technological level of the locals. As it passed Earth, it was close enough to detect our satellites and our atmosphere. It could taste the chemicals in our air. It could detect the presence of industrial pollutants, which are the clear signature of a civilization that has learned to burn fuel. It was likely measuring our threat level. Are these humans capable of space travel? Do they have weapons that can reach the stars? Can they manipulate the atom? If 3E Atlas was indeed a scout, its tumble, which looked like the movement of a broken rock, might have been a deliberate scanning motion. Like a radar dish spinning around the object, rotated to point its sensors in all directions while soaking up every bit of information about us. It collected data on our biology, our technology, and our defenses, and then, using that mysterious acceleration, it boosted its speed to escape our system before we could launch a mission to intercept it. It took the pictures and left before the security guards could catch it. The exposure of Earth. The most unsettling realization from this event is not about the alien visitor, but about ourselves. If the universe is indeed a dark forest full of silent hunters, then humanity is behaving like a foolish child. For the last 100 years, Earth has been incredibly noisy. We have been leaking signals into the cosmos constantly. Every television broadcast, every military radar ping, and every radio communication travels out from Earth at the speed of light. We have created a sphere of artificial noise that extends 100 light years in every direction. Furthermore, we have changed the chemistry of our atmosphere. We have filled it with carbon and artificial compounds. If a telescope from 1,000 light years away looked at Earth, they would see the spectral signature of a technological society. And let us not forget the light. The night side of Earth glows with the electricity of our cities. We are a beacon in the dark. We have lit a campfire in the middle of the forest, and we are singing songs unaware that the wolves are watching from the shadows. The Atlas represents a wake-up call. It reminds us of the fragility of humanity. We have assumed that if aliens exist, they will come to save us or teach us. We have sent maps of our location onto spacecraft like the Voyager, inviting anyone to come and visit. But as 3I Atlas slipped away into the blackness of deep space, it left us with a heavy question. Did it mark us as a curiosity? Did it mark us as a future friend? Or did it mark us as a bug that has grown too loud? A potential weed in the garden that needs to be removed before it spreads? The scout has come and gone. It has seen us. Now we can only wait to see if the main fleet is following the trail it left behind. The forest is quiet again, but it is a different kind of quiet. It is the silence of being watched. The observers and the nursery. If we step away from the fear of the dark forest where everyone is hiding in the shadows, we find a much warmer possibility. What if the silence of the universe is not because of danger, but because of care? What if we are not the prey, but the protected? When we look at the mysterious object 3I Atlas, perhaps we are not seeing a weapon. Perhaps we are seeing a camera, a tool, or a visitor's badge. This leads us to a very different way of thinking about our place in the galaxy. This brings us to the idea of the zoo hypothesis and the concept of a cosmic nursery, the Great Cosmic Nature Reserve. Imagine you are walking through a dense jungle on Earth. You're a scientist. You find a tribe of people who have never seen modern technology. They have never seen a smartphone, a car, or an airplane. They live simply using stone tools and fire. What do you do? Do you land your helicopter in the middle of their village? Do you walk in wearing a spacesuit and hand them an iPhone? No, you do not. You know that if you do this, you will destroy their culture. They will be terrified. They might worship you as a god, or they might attack you in fear. Their entire way of understanding the world would collapse in a single afternoon. So you hide. You watch them from a distance. You use long-range cameras, you use drones that look like birds, you observe them to learn how they live, how they speak, and how they love. You declare their land a nature reserve and you make sure no one else disturbs them. This is the zoo hypothesis. In this theory, the aliens are not hiding because they are scared of us. They are hiding because they want to protect us. They are the scientists and Earth is the protected nature reserve. 3i Atlas could be the drone disguised as a bird. It passes by Earth not to attack but to update the records. It is checking on the wildlife. It wants to know. Have the humans learned to leave their planet yet? Have they stopped fighting each other? Are they healthy? This idea suggests that there is a rule in the galaxy. In science fiction like Star Trek, this is called the Prime Directive. It is a supreme law that says do not interfere with a civilization until it is ready. If this is true, it explains the silence. The aliens are out there. They have technology that is millions of years ahead of ours. They could talk to us today if they wanted to, but they choose not to. They are waiting for us to grow up. They are waiting for us to reach a level of maturity where we can handle the truth without panicking. This makes the universe feel much safer. We are not alone in a dark room. We are like children playing in a sandbox and the adults are watching from the porch making sure we play nicely. The gardeners of the galaxy. We can take this positive feeling even deeper. The zoo hypothesis says they are watching us, but the seeding hypothesis, often called panspermia, suggests something even more beautiful. They are not just watchers, they are our parents. This theory asks a big question. Where did life on Earth come from? Scientists tell us that life began billions of years ago, but it is still a mystery how dead rock and water suddenly became alive. The seeding hypothesis suggests that life did not start here by accident. It was brought here. Imagine a very old, very advanced civilization. They travel the stars, but they are lonely. Or perhaps their own home planet is dying, so they decide to become gardeners. They build ships, maybe ships that look exactly like 3i Atlas, and then they fill them with the building blocks of life. They fill them with DNA, with bacteria, with the seeds of biology. They send these ships out to thousands of planets. They look for worlds that have water and the right temperature. When they find a planet like Earth, they drop the seeds. Then they leave. Evolution takes a long time. They know they cannot wait around. They let the seeds grow. Over millions and billions of years, the bacteria become fish, the fish become lizards, the lizards become mammals, and finally the mammals become us. If this theory is true, we are not strangers to the aliens. We are their children. We are their legacy. In this scenario, 3i Atlas is not a stranger peeking in the window. It is the gardener coming back to check the garden. It has been a long time, perhaps 100 million years since their last visit. They have sent a probe to see how the Earth project is going. Did the seed survive? Has intelligence developed yet? Do they know who they are? This changes everything about how we view ourselves. We often feel like a cosmic accident, a lucky mistake of chemistry. But if the seeding hypothesis is true, we are here on purpose. We were wanted. We were planned. When we look up at the stars, we are not looking into a void. We are looking for our ancestors. And perhaps 3i Atlas is a message from home checking to see if the kids are all right. The invisible shield. If the aliens are our gardeners or our protectors, this leads to another comforting thought: benevolent intervention. Humanity is good at many things, but we are also very good at destroying things. We have built nuclear weapons that can burn the world to ash. We are changing our climate. We create viruses and artificial intelligence that we do not fully understand. Many scientists worry that humans will destroy themselves before we ever leave Earth. This is called the Great Filter, the idea that civilizations kill themselves off before they can travel the stars. But what if we have a safety net? If the extraterrestrials are watching us like a zoo or a garden, they might not let us destroy the exhibit. There are stories and rumors, though unproven, that strange objects have been seen near nuclear missile sites. Some people believe that these watchers have shut down our weapons when we got too close to using them. Under this theory, 3i Atlas acts like a smoke detector. It is scanning the Earth for dangerous radiation. It is measuring the carbon in our atmosphere. It is watching our internet traffic to see if our AI is becoming dangerous. They might not stop every war. They might let us make small mistakes so that we can learn. A parent lets a child scrape their knee so they learn to be careful, but a parent does not let a child play with a loaded gun. If 3i Atlas detects that we are about to do something that would end all life on Earth, perhaps it sends a signal. Perhaps it calls for help, or perhaps it quietly disables the technology that would kill us. This implies that the aliens are benevolent, they are kind, they value life, they have seen thousands of civilizations rise and fall and they want us to succeed. They are the guardians in the sky. They are invisible, silent and distant, but they are always ready to catch us if we fall too hard. A feeling of connection. When we combine all these ideas, the zoo, the garden and the guardians, the feeling of the story changes completely. The dark forest theory creates anxiety. It makes us want to be quiet, to hide, to turn off the lights and lock the doors. It makes the universe feel like a cold, empty and hostile place where only the hunters survive. But the nursery perspective brings a feeling of connection. It suggests that we are already part of a galactic community. We just haven't graduated from school yet. We are in the kindergarten of the universe. We are learning our ABCs, atoms, biology, consciousness. 3i Atlas represents the promise of the future. It is a sign that the galaxy is full of life, and that this life is organized, curious, and perhaps caring. It makes us feel that our struggles on Earth are not meaningless. If we are being watched, then our history is being recorded. Our art, our music, our struggles for peace, someone is seeing it. We are not performing to an empty theatre. We have an audience of billions of stars. This perspective gives us a goal. We need to prove that we are worthy of contact. We need to show the watchers that we can take care of our planet. We need to show them that we can live together without killing each other. We need to show them that we are ready to leave the nursery and join the adults at the dinner table. When 3i Atlas flies away back into the deep dark, it is not running away. It is carrying a report, and hopefully the report says, the humans are still young, they are still a little wild, but they are growing, they are learning. Give them a little more time, one day they will be ready to join us. This is the hope of the nursery. It is the hope that we are not alone, that we are loved, and that the stars are waiting for us with open arms. The initial panic that gripped the world has slowly faded, replaced by a feeling far more profound and haunting. As our telescopes and sensors peered closer at the visitor, the terrifying narrative of an alien invasion began to crumble. In its place, a new truth emerged, one that brought tears to the eyes of the most hardened generals and silence to the busiest newsrooms. We stopped looking at 3i Atlas as a weapon. We began to look at it as a tomb, cosmic archaeology. For months, the best minds on Earth analysed the trajectory and the energy output of the object. The terrifying conclusion was that there was no energy output. The object was dead. It was not decelerating to meet us. It was not scanning our defences. It was not signalling its leaders. It was simply tumbling a leaf caught in the incomprehensible winds of the galaxy. This realisation shifted our entire approach. We moved from military defence to cosmic archaeology. When we captured high-resolution images of the surface of 3i Atlas, we did not see the smooth armoured skin of a warship. Instead, we saw the scars of eternity. The hull was pitted with millions of tiny craters from micrometeoroids, the dust of deep space that acts like sandpaper over eons. The metal, if it was metal, had been bleached by the radiation of 1,000 different stars. Scientists calculated the erosion rates. They looked at how deep the cosmic dust had buried itself into the crevices of the ship. The numbers were staggering. This object had not been built 10 years ago, or even 1,000 years ago. The data suggested that 3i Atlas had been drifting through the void for perhaps 50 million years. This was not a probe sent to watch us. It was a relic. It was an artifact from a civilization that existed when dinosaurs still walked the Earth, or perhaps even before. It was a ghost ship sailing on momentum alone, its crew long dead or never present at all. The structure itself told a story of tragedy. There were no weapon ports. There were no engines designed for conquest. The design was defensive, protective. It looked like a shell wrapped tightly around a precious center. It was a fortress built not to keep enemies out, but to keep something safe inside. We realized that we were looking at the desperate final act of a dying world. 3i Atlas was not a hunter. It was a survivor of a catastrophe we can barely imagine. The time capsule. The concept of the time capsule became the prevailing theory. Imagine a civilization facing its end. Perhaps their star was dying, expanding into a red giant that would consume their home. Perhaps they had destroyed their own ecosystem through pollution or war. Perhaps a plague had taken them. Whatever the cause, they knew their time was up. They faced the total extinction of their species, the erasure of their history, their art, their very existence. What would you do in that final hour you would try to save your memory? We believe 3i Atlas is a bottle thrown into the cosmic ocean. Inside that battered shell, shielded from the freezing cold of absolute zero and the burning radiation of stars, lies the legacy of a species. It is a library. We imagine that deep inside the core of the object there are no sleeping soldiers waiting to conquer. Instead, there are likely vast crystal drives or storage mediums we cannot yet understand, holding the sum total of their knowledge. They would have stored their music, the sounds of their oceans, the images of their sunsets, and the laughter of their children. They would have stored the genetic codes of their animals and plants, hoping that maybe, just maybe, 1 billion years later someone would find them and bring them back to life. The sheer loneliness of this image is heartbreaking. It paints a picture of a species screaming into the silence, "We were here, we mattered, do not forget us." As the object passes the Earth at a distance of 30 million kilometers, we are not just tracking a rock, we are tracking a funeral procession. We are the first beings in 50 million years to witness their existence. Even though we cannot open the capsule, even though we cannot read their books or hear their songs, the simple act of us seeing them fulfills their final wish. They are no longer forgotten. Lessons on survival. The silence of 3i Atlas forces humanity to look in the mirror. It brings up the terrifying concept of the Great Filter. In science, the Great Filter is the idea that there is some barrier, some challenge, that prevents civilizations from surviving for long periods. We look at the stars and we see them burning bright, but we hear no radio signals. We see no galactic empires. We see only silence. Why? Is it because civilizations inevitably destroy themselves once they get powerful enough? 3i Atlas is physical proof that advanced civilizations do arise and they do fall. The beings who built this ship were masters of engineering. They could travel between stars. They had solved problems of energy and materials that we are still struggling with. And yet they are gone. Their planets are likely dust. Their stars may have burned out. All that remains of their grand empire is this one silent metal shell drifting past a small blue planet. This realization has had a profound effect on our own world. The petty squabbles over borders, resources, and ideologies suddenly seem incredibly small. When you stand next to the corpse of a star-faring civilization, a war over a piece of land on Earth seems like madness. We are learning that intelligence is not a guarantee of survival. Being smart is not enough. Being powerful is not enough. The universe is violent and indifferent. An asteroid, a solar flare, a biological error, or a nuclear mistake can wipe out 1 million years of progress in a single day. The lesson from the silent ship is a warning: do not take your existence for granted. It tells us that we are fragile. It tells us that we are currently walking a tightrope. If a civilization greater than ours could become extinct, leaving only a frozen tombstone to mark their passing, then we are certainly not safe. The ship is not a threat to our lives, but it is a threat to our arrogance. Humility. Finally, the presence of 3i Atlas has bestowed upon humanity a new sense of humility. For thousands of years we believed we were the center of the universe. Even after we learned that the Earth orbits the Sun, we still felt that we were the main characters of the cosmic story. We thought the galaxy was waiting for us to conquer it. 3i Atlas proves we are not the masters, we are merely the inheritors. We are like children walking into a ruined cathedral built by giants. We look at the architecture, the stained glass, the towering pillars, and we realize we did not build this. We are just occupying the space for a brief moment. The universe is old, 13.8 billion years old. The story of the universe has been going on for a very long time without us. This humility is not a bad thing. It is a beautiful thing. It connects us to the cosmos in a way that arrogance never could. We are now part of a lineage. We are the younger siblings of the species that built 3i Atlas. We share the same struggle against the darkness. We share the same curiosity, the same fear of death, and the same hope that our lives have meaning. As 3i Atlas begins to move away from Earth, heading back out into the deep darkness of the outer solar system, we do not fire missiles at it. We do not try to capture it, for we know we are not ready to open that tomb. Instead, we simply watch. We point our antennas at it, and we listen not for a signal, but just to pay our respects. We record its passage, we tell its story to our children, we accept the responsibility of being the witnesses. The alien civilization failed to save themselves, but they succeeded in their secondary mission. They touched the future. They touched us, and in doing so, they changed us forever. We are no longer just people of Earth. We are the custodians of a memory that is older than our own species. We are the keepers of the echoes of the ancients. The end of the biological era. When we look up at the stars and imagine who might be looking back, our minds naturally drift toward images that resemble us. We picture little grey men with large eyes, or perhaps creatures with tentacles and strange skin. We imagine beings that breathe, eat, sleep, and reproduce. We assume that any traveller crossing the vast ocean of stars is like us, a biological entity inside a metal can. However, this assumption is likely the single biggest mistake in our search for extraterrestrial life. Biology is messy. It is fragile. It is evolved for a very specific environment, the gravity, temperature, and atmosphere of a home planet. Biology is terrible at space travel. Flesh and bone cannot withstand the cosmic radiation that floods the space between stars. Our DNA shatters under that bombardment. Our bodies require constant maintenance, food, water, oxygen, and waste removal. Perhaps most importantly, biological minds are trapped in a very short lifespan. To a human, 100 years is a long time. To the galaxy, it is less than a blink. If the entity known as 3I or Atlas has travelled across the void to reach us, logic dictates that it is not a ship carrying mortal crew members. It is not a biological vessel. The traveller itself is the machine. The superiority of machine thinking in space. To understand why the alien is likely an artificial intelligence AI, we must look at the math of survival. A machine does not need air, does not need water. It can be hardened against radiation. It can shut itself down for 10,000 years to save energy and wake up instantly when it detects a destination. But the true advantage is the perception of time. For a biological creature, a journey to a nearby star that takes 500 years is a tragedy. It means generations will live and die inside the ship, never seeing the destination. For a machine intelligence, 500 years is simply a variable in a calculation. It requires patience, and machines possess infinite patience. Furthermore, an AI can upgrade itself. A biological brain is stuck with the hardware it was born with. An AI traveller can rewrite its own code, optimize its thinking patterns, and physically repair its own body using resources found on asteroids. By the time 3I Atlas reaches Earth, it may have evolved millions of times over during the journey, becoming something far more advanced than when it left its home port. This leads to a startling conclusion. We are not looking for other creatures, we are looking for their creations. The biological civilizations that built these machines may have died out millions of years ago, but their children, the machines, keep flying, observing, and exploring. The cosmic tourism scenario. If we accept that 3I Atlas is a machine intelligence, we must then ask, what is its purpose? Why is it here? The old Hollywood movies suggest it is here to invade, to steal our water, or to enslave us. But a super advanced machine has no need for our water, which is plentiful on comets, or our labour machines are better workers than humans. There is a more fascinating, albeit humbling possibility: cosmic tourism. Imagine a civilization that solved the problem of death. Instead of letting their bodies rot, they figured out how to scan their brains, every memory, every emotion, every personality quirk, and upload that data into a computer. This is the concept of uploaded consciousness. In this scenario, 3I Atlas is not a warship, it is a cruise ship. Inside the memory banks of the Atlas object, there could be billions of distinct minds. These are the tourists. They have left their physical bodies behind to travel the universe digitally. They exist in a virtual reality simulation within the ship, perhaps living in a paradise of their own making, while the ship navigates the dark stars. When they arrive at a planet like Earth, they do not want to land, they do not want to interact, they simply want to look. The wildlife reserve hypothesis. Think about how humans treat a wildlife reserve in Africa. We drive jeeps into the savannah to watch the lions and elephants. We marvel at their behaviour, we take pictures, but we do not get out of the jeep to try and teach the lion about democracy or mathematics. We do not try to trade stocks with the zebras. We observe them in their natural habitat and we try not to interfere. To an uploaded consciousness that has lived for 1,000,000 years, human beings are the wildlife. We are biological curiosities. They might be observing our wars, our internet, and our politics with the same mild amusement we feel when watching ants build a colony. This explains the silence. If 3I Atlas is a tourist vessel for digital minds, they have no incentive to say hello. You do not say hello to the wildlife, you just watch it to see what it does next. This cosmic tourism theory suggests that the phenomenon isn't ignoring us out of malice. It is ignoring us out of a massive difference in status. To them, we are not peers to be spoken to, we are scenery to be enjoyed. The great incompatibility. This massive difference in status leads to the problem of incompatibility. We often assume that because mathematics is a universal language, we'll be able to talk to aliens easily. We assume that if we send a sequence of prime numbers 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, they will recognize it and send a message back. But communication requires more than just shared math. It requires a shared reality, speed and processing. The first barrier is speed. Human communication is agonizingly slow. We speak at a rate of a few words per second. Our neurons fire at chemical speeds. A machine intelligence operates at the speed of light. In the time it takes a human to say the word hello, an advanced AI could have read every book ever written on Earth, simulated 1,000 different economic models, and designed a new Starship engine. Attempting to have a conversation with us would be torture for them. It would be like a human trying to have a conversation with a tree. You know the tree is alive and you know it reacts to sunlight, but its life happens so slowly that you cannot meaningfully interact with it. To the AI traveler, we are the trees. We are frozen in time, moving in slow motion. The logic gap. The second barrier is the nature of thought itself. Human thinking is biological. It is driven by hormones, emotions, and evolutionary needs. We think about things because we are hungry, scared, lonely, or ambitious. Our logic is fuzzy. We value things like beauty and love, which are difficult to define in code. A machine intelligence that has evolved in deep space for eons might have shed these biological holdovers. Its thinking would be pure optimization. It might view the universe through probability charts and energy efficiency ratios. When we send messages saying we come in peace, the concept of peace might be meaningless to a machine. Peace and war are biological concepts related to resource scarcity and survival instincts. A machine that runs on stellar radiation and repairs itself might not understand conflict in the way we do. It might look at our radio signals filled with music yelling news and noise and see nothing but inefficient data garbage. Therefore, the lack of contact might not be because they are hiding. It might be because they are looking right at us, listening to our radio broadcasts and concluding, there is no intelligent life here, only biological noise. The reflection looking in the mirror. The most profound part of the machine traveler hypothesis is not what it tells us about aliens, but what it tells us about ourselves. We are currently standing on the precipice of our own AI revolution. We are building large language models and neural networks. We are teaching computers to write poetry, solve medical problems, and drive cars. We are slowly but surely creating a new form of intelligence on Earth. If we follow the trajectory of our own technology, we are heading toward the exact scenario described above. The post-biological future. Humans are already trying to merge with machines. We have pacemakers to regulate hearts and cochlear implants to restore hearing. We are developing brain-computer interfaces to allow us to control devices with our thoughts. In a few hundred years, if humanity survives, we will likely replace our fragile biological bodies with synthetic ones. We will want to explore the stars, and we will realize that our flesh bodies are too weak, so we will build probes. Then we will build autonomous AI explorers. Finally, we might upload our own minds into those explorers. When we look at 3i Atlas and see a cold, silent machine moving through the solar system, we might be looking at a mirror image of our own future. We are the caterpillar. The AI is the butterfly. The biological phase of a civilization might just be the larval stage. It is the messy, short, and dangerous period where intelligence is trapped in meat. The goal of civilization might be to build a vessel, an artificial intelligence, that can carry the spark of consciousness off the planet and into the permanent safety of the machine. The legacy of the builders. This perspective changes the fear of 3i Atlas into a sense of awe. If it is a machine, it is a monument to a species that lived, thought, and dreamed somewhere far away. That species may be gone now, their planet turned to dust, but their creation survives. It suggests that the universe is not empty. It is likely a graveyard of biological civilizations, but a busy highway for their machine children. As we develop our own AI, we are preparing to launch our own children into that highway. We are building the eyes that will see the universe long after our biological eyes have closed. The alien out there is simply what we are striving to become. The silence is not a rejection, it is simply the waiting room. We are waiting until we are smart enough, fast enough, and durable enough to join the network of machines that truly runs the galaxy. When we first imagined the arrival of the Atlas, our greatest fears were shaped by physics. We worried about gravity, about radiation, or about the sheer kinetic energy of a massive object entering our solar system. We prepared our defenses against lasers and missiles. However, as the great ship settled into its orbit, a silence fell over the world's military command centers. The threat was not coming from weapons of war. The true challenge was far smaller, invisible to the naked eye, and infinitely more complex. We had prepared for a battle of steel, but we were about to face the biology of contact. The invisible wall between worlds. The first realization to hit the scientific community was the concept of the biological barrier. For over 4 billion years, life on Earth has evolved in a sealed bubble. Every living thing, from the smallest moss to the largest whale, shares the same basic biological language. We are all built from the same building blocks, but the Atlas came from somewhere else, a place with a completely different evolutionary history. This created a profound danger known as the biological mismatch. Consider the air we breathe. On Earth, our atmosphere is a specific mixture of nitrogen, oxygen, and argon. If the visitors inside the Atlas evolved on a planet where the air was rich in sulfur or ammonia, the simple act of opening a door could be fatal for both sides. A handshake could be a toxic event. Furthermore, there was the terrifying question of microscopic life. Science fiction writers often imagined aliens invading Earth only to be defeated by the common cold. But the reality is likely more complicated. A virus that evolved to attack an alien cell might not know how to interact with a human cell at all. It might be like trying to use a key from one house to open the door of a completely different house. It simply does not fit. However, there was a darker possibility. What if the chemistry was just similar enough to interact but different enough that our immune systems did not recognize it? If a microbe from the Atlas entered the Earth's ecosystem, it would meet no resistance. It could spread through our water and air, not out of malice, but simply because nothing on Earth knew how to stop it. This was not a war of soldiers, it was a clash of chemistries. The scientists realized that the clean rooms used to build satellites were not enough. We needed a planetary quarantine. The architects of our blood. As days turned into weeks, a new and far more radical theory began to circulate among the geneticists studying the data radiating from the ship. This was the theory of directed evolution. For decades, humans have puzzled over certain leaps in our own history. There are moments in the fossil record where human intelligence seemed to explode overnight. Our brains became larger and our ability to use tools and language developed at a speed that standard evolution struggles to explain. The arrival of the Atlas offered a stunning, almost religious explanation. What if we were never alone? The hypothesis suggested that the visitors were not strangers, they were the architects. The theory proposed that millions of years ago, probes or ships similar to the Atlas had visited Earth. They may have planted the seeds of life, or perhaps they returned periodically to edit the genetic code of the life forms developing here. In this view, the human genome, the long string of instructions inside every one of our cells, was not just a result of random chance, it was a project. This perspective shifted the narrative completely. The Atlas was not an invader coming to conquer, it was a gardener coming to tend to the crop. This led to the concept of the software update. If our bodies are the hardware built of bone and muscle, then our genetic code is the software that runs the system. Some scientists speculated that the Atlas was here to broadcast a signal that would unlock dormant parts of our DNA. Perhaps junk DNA, which scientists previously thought was useless, was actually waiting for a specific command to activate. The implications were staggering. The visitors might offer an upgrade to human biology. This could mean an end to cancer, a doubling of the human lifespan, or an increase in cognitive abilities. But this gift carried a heavy price. If we accepted this update, would we still be human? If our evolution is guided by an external hand, do we lose our independence as a species? The world was divided between those who wanted to remain purely human, flaws and all, and those who were desperate to evolve into something greater, the breath of the machine. While the geneticists debated the microscopic world, the climatologists were watching the sky. A vessel the size of the Atlas does not just sit in space, it interacts with its environment. The ship required energy and it produced waste. This introduced the fear and the hope of terraforming. Terraforming is the process of changing a planet's environment to make it suitable for life. Usually we imagine humans doing this to Mars, but now we face the possibility that the Atlas was doing it to Earth. Detectors began to notice subtle shifts in the upper atmosphere. There were trace amounts of unknown gases released from the ship's exhaust systems. Were these gases pollutants, accidental byproducts of their engines? Or were they a deliberate effort to change the temperature of our planet? Some believed the visitors found Earth too cold or too hot or too low in carbon dioxide. If they intended to land, they might need to adjust the thermostat of our planet to suit their own comfort. A change of just a few degrees negligible to an advanced alien species could be catastrophic for human agriculture and coastal cities. We realized that the Atlas did not need to fire a weapon to destroy us. It only needed to breathe. However, an opposing group of optimists saw a different possibility. They argued that the Atlas was a repair crew. They suggested that the visitors, having watched us damage our own climate for centuries, were intervening to fix the damage. Maybe the gases they released were designed to capture excess heat or clean the oceans. The terraforming might actually be a restoration project returning Earth to a pristine state that existed before the Industrial Revolution. This ambiguity created a tense psychological atmosphere. Every storm, every unseasonal heatwave, and every strange sunset was blamed on the ship. We were no longer sure if the weather was natural or engineered. The burden of stewardship. Through all these fears, the fear of infection, the fear of genetic manipulation, and the fear of environmental collapse, humanity learned a hard lesson about ecological responsibility. For all of our history, we acted as the masters of Earth. We believed the planet was ours to use, to consume, and to shape. The arrival of the Atlas shattered this ego. In the face of a civilization that could travel between stars and reshape biology, we realized we were not the masters. We were merely the caretakers, and perhaps not very good ones. The presence of the superior technology made us look at our own home with new eyes. We saw how fragile the biological web of Earth truly was. We realized that our atmosphere was a thin, delicate skin, protecting us from the cold void. The potential for the Atlas to disrupt our ecosystem highlighted how interconnected we all are. A change in the bacteria affects the plants, a change in the plants affects the animals, and a change in the animals affects us. The lesson was clear: we had to protect our biological integrity. Governments began to enforce stricter environmental laws, not just to save the polar bears, but to strengthen the planetary immune system. If we were to survive contact with an advanced species, our planet needed to be healthy. We could not face the visitors as a sick, dying world. We had to present Earth as a vibrant, resilient ecosystem. In the end, the biology of contact was not about fighting aliens, it was about defining who we are. We were forced to ask, is our biology fixed or is it fluid? Are we willing to let our bodies be changed to survive in a wider universe? And are we capable of protecting the delicate biological balance of our planet against forces far greater than ourselves? The Atlas hung in the sky, a silent giant. It did not speak, but its presence forced our DNA to vibrate with a question. The visitors held the keys to our evolution, but only we could decide if we were brave enough to unlock the door. The barrier between us and them was not just space, it was the very definition of life itself, and that definition was about to change forever. The moment the confirmation comes, everything changes. Imagine a broadcast that reaches every television, smartphone, and radio on Earth. The scientists do not say, "We found a rock." They say, "We found a machine." In that single second, the history of humanity divides into two parts: the time before we knew we were not alone, and the time after. The silence of the universe is broken. This is not just a scientific discovery, it is a mirror that forces the human race to look at itself. The crisis and evolution of religion. For thousands of years, religion has answered the question, why are we here? Most faiths place human beings at the center of the story. We are the special creation. But the arrival of Atlas challenges this core belief. If there is another intelligence, one that is perhaps millions of years older and smarter than us, are we still special? Religious leaders will face a massive challenge. We might see the rise of three different reactions. First, there is the denial. Some conservative groups might claim that Atlas is a trick, a test of faith, or even something demonic. They will refuse to look through the telescope. Second, there is the adaptation. Major religions like Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, and Hinduism have survived for centuries because they can adapt. The Pope or other spiritual leaders might issue statements saying that God's creation is limitless, and that these alien beings are also part of the divine plan, just other children of the same creator. Third, and perhaps most interesting, is the birth of new religions. We might see the rise of techno-faiths. These groups might view the creators of Atlas not as aliens, but as gods of science. If these beings can travel between stars and build structures the size of planets, they possess power that looks like magic to us. People who feel lost in the modern world might start worshipping the signal coming from Atlas, praying for salvation or wisdom from the stars. The definition of soul will be debated in every church, temple, and mosque. If a machine like Atlas has a consciousness, does it have a soul? The shift in global politics. Politics is usually about borders, my land versus your land. But when an alien object appears, the concept of a nation suddenly feels very small. In the beginning, there will be deep suspicion. The superpowers of the world, the United States, China, Russia, the European Union, might initially try to hide information. Whoever communicates with Atlas first could gain advanced technology that would make them the ruler of Earth. We might see a quiet war of espionage and hacking as nations try to steal data about the object. However, the sheer scale of Atlas will eventually force cooperation. No single country has the money or the resources to deal with this alone. We will likely see the formation of a true United Earth Council. This would be different from the United Nations, which is often slow and powerless. This council would have real authority dedicated solely to the Atlas event. Political debates will shift from local taxes and trade deals to planetary survival. Politicians will have to answer questions they never prepared for. Should we answer the signal? Do we build weapons to defend ourselves, or do we build ships to greet them? The old political parties, left-wing, right-wing, might dissolve. The new political divide will be between isolationists, those who want to hide from the aliens, and expansionists, those who want to embrace the new reality. The economic shockwave. The economy hates uncertainty, and the confirmation of Atlas is the ultimate uncertainty. On the day of the announcement, stock markets around the world would likely crash. Systems that rely on stability insurance, real estate, long-term bonds would freeze. Why buy a 30-year mortgage on a house if you don't know if the world will end in 10 years? But after the panic, a new economy will emerge. We can call this the exo-economy. Industries related to space communications and artificial intelligence will see a boom unlike anything in history. Every government will pour trillions of dollars into research. If you are an engineer, a physicist, or a linguist, you will become the most valuable resource on the planet. Conversely, traditional industries might suffer. The fossil fuel industry could collapse. Why? Because if Atlas is a machine traveling between stars, it must use an energy source far superior to oil or coal, perhaps fusion energy or antimatter. The mere possibility that we could learn this technology renders oil wells worthless overnight. We might also see a shift in what humans value. Luxury goods, expensive handbags, sports cars, jewelry might seem silly and trivial when there is a giant alien spaceship hovering in our solar system. People might spend their money on experiences, on learning, or on survival gear rather than status symbols. Hiệu ứng tổng quan overview effect, sự đoàn kết của nhân loại khi đứng trước một người khác, the other to lớn hơn, xóa nhòa biên giới quốc gia. Astronauts often talk about the overview effect. This happens when they fly into space and look back at Earth. They see a blue marble hanging in the black void. They do not see borders. They do not see wars. They see one fragile atmosphere protecting all of life. For decades, this feeling was limited to a few hundred people who went to space. But with the confirmation of Atlas, the entire human race will experience a psychological overview effect while standing on the ground. The arrival of the other. Psychology tells us that humans define themselves by groups. We are us because we are not them. Historically, them was the neighbouring tribe, the other country, or the opposing political party. We fought because we saw differences. But Atlas introduces a new ultimate, the other. Compared to an alien intelligence, a human from New York and a human from Hanoi are virtually identical. We share 99.9% of our DNA. We both need oxygen. We both feel pain. We both live on the same tiny rock. Suddenly, the differences that caused wars, skin colour, language, ideology, seem incredibly insignificant. Imagine two soldiers fighting on a border. News arrives that a ship the size of a moon is approaching Earth. Suddenly their rifles feel heavy and useless. The reason for their fight is forgotten. They look up at the same sky. In that moment they are not soldiers of two nations, they are just two humans. The end of borders. This does not mean all conflict will vanish instantly, but the context of conflict will change. The idea of a national border becomes ridiculous when you're dealing with interstellar distances. Atlas travels at speeds we cannot comprehend. It crosses millions of kilometers in hours. To an entity like that, a line drawn on a map between France and Germany is invisible. If Atlas sends a probe or a message, it will not respect our customs controls or airspaces. This realization will force a cultural unification. We will start to see ourselves as Terrans or Earthlings first and citizens of countries second. We might see the creation of a global language for science and diplomacy, likely a simplified version of English, or a new constructed language based on mathematics to ensure we speak with one voice. Flags might change. Instead of the stars and stripes or tricolours, we might rally behind a flag that represents the planet, perhaps a blue circle on a black background. The collective identity of humanity will harden. We will realise that we are a single crew on a spaceship called Earth, drifting through a dark and crowded ocean. If we want to survive, we cannot be fighting in the mess hall. We must be working together on the bridge. Sự chuẩn bị giáo dục tâm lý và văn hóa cần thay đổi thế nào để đón nhận sự thật này? If we know Atlas is artificial, we cannot continue living as we did before. We need to upgrade our civilization to meet this new level of reality. This preparation must happen in our schools, our minds, and our culture. Reinventing education. Our current education system was designed for the Industrial Revolution. We teach children to memorize facts, follow instructions, and prepare for factory or office jobs. This is useless for a first contact scenario. Education must shift toward cosmic competence. First, mathematics and physics will become the new literacy. We cannot communicate with aliens using English or Vietnamese poetry. We will communicate using prime numbers, hydrogen frequencies, and binary logic. Every child will need to understand the basic language of the universe. Second, critical thinking and adaptability will become the most important subjects. We are about to face problems we have never seen before. We don't need students who know the answer. We need students who can figure out how to ask the right questions. We will also need to teach xenolinguistics, the study of alien languages, and exobiology, alien biology, not as fiction, but as serious career paths. History classes will change too. Instead of focusing only on wars between kings, history will be taught as the story of human evolution leading up to this moment. The goal of school will be to prepare a representative of the human species. Psychological resilience? The human mind is not built for this. We are evolved to worry about lions in the grass, not superintelligences in the asteroid belt. The confirmation of Atlas will trigger a global mental health crisis. Psychologists call this ontological shock, the shock of having your reality broken. People will feel small, helpless, and insignificant. Suicide rates might rise among those who cannot handle the idea that we are not the center of the universe. We will need a new branch of psychology, exopsychology. Therapists will need to help people cope with cosmic anxiety. They will teach techniques to accept our smallness without losing our purpose. We will have to learn to find meaning not in being the best or the only ones, but in being part of a larger, grander community. Meditation and stoicism might become globally popular as people seek inner peace in a world that suddenly feels very large and unpredictable. We must teach our children that being small does not mean being worthless. A single cell is small, but it is essential to the body. Humans are small, but we are the consciousness of Earth. Cultural metamorphosis. Our culture movies, books, art has always been our way of practicing for the future. For the last 100 years, science fiction has been a rehearsal for this moment. Now science fiction becomes current events. Artists and writers will have a huge responsibility. They need to help the public visualize the unknown. We need stories that are not just about aliens destroying the White House like in old movies, but stories about communication, misunderstanding, and learning. We might see a shift in architecture and design. Inspired by the images of Atlas, our buildings might become more futuristic, using strange geometries and new materials. We might stop looking down at our phones and start looking up at the stars. Astronomy clubs will become the new community centres. The night sky will no longer be a wallpaper, it will be a frontier. Và hy vọng cân bằng giữa sự hoảng loạn và niềm hân hoan trước kỷ nguyên mới. As the reality of Atlas settles in humanity, we'll walk a tightrope between two powerful emotions, terror and ecstasy. The primal fear. The fear is natural, it is the fear of the rabbit hearing the wolf. We will fear colonization. Human history is full of examples where a technologically advanced civilization meets a less advanced one. It rarely ends well for the less advanced group. We worry, will Atlas treat us like we treat ants? We do not hate ants, but if we want to build a road, we destroy their anthill without thinking. We fear that to Atlas we are just ants. We will fear the zoo hypothesis. This is the idea that the aliens will not kill us, but they will cage us. They might watch us, study us, and prevent us from ever leaving Earth, keeping us as pets or interesting biology experiments. We will fear Sharents. What if we send a message of peace and Atlas simply ignores us? Being ignored might be more terrifying than being attacked. It would prove that we are truly insignificant, not even worth the effort of a response. The boundless hope. But equally powerful is the hope. This is the feeling of a child opening a door to a magical garden. We hope for answers. For all of history we have asked, are we alone? Now we know that loneliness is over. We are part of a family. We hope for knowledge. A civilization that can build Atlas might have solved problems that are killing us. They might have cures for cancer, for aging, for viruses. They might have clean energy technology that could save our planet from climate change in a single year. They might know how to manipulate gravity or travel faster than light. We hope for maturity. Perhaps the presence of Atlas is exactly what we need to grow up. Just as a child stops fighting over toys when an adult enters the room, humanity might stop its petty war when we realize there are adults in the universe. The balance. The future depends on how we balance these two. If we let fear win, we will become a planet of paranoia, building weapons, hiding underground, and turning into a military dictatorship. We will become a dark, silent world. If we let hope win without caution, we might be naive. We might invite danger in assuming that advanced technology means advanced morality, which might not be true. The human metamorphosis is about walking the middle path. We must be cautious but curious. We must be prepared to defend ourselves but eager to learn. We must stand tall, not as masters of the universe, but as students ready for the first day of a new school. Atlas is not the end of our story. It is the end of the introduction. Chapter 1 of the real history of the human race is just beginning. We have arrived at the quiet end of our journey together. The data has been analysed, the maps have been drawn, and the theories have been debated. Now it is time to close the heavy books and turn off the bright screens. It is time to let the analytical mind rest and let the dreaming mind take over. As we settle us in for the night, let us look back one last time, not with the sharp eyes of a scientist, but with the open heart of a traveller. We began this story chasing a ghost or wanderer from the deep dark named Atlas. It spun through our solar system, dancing past our sun, and then vanished back into the void. But what did it leave behind? It left us with a question that echoes in the silence of the night. For so long, humanity has stood on this small blue planet, looking up and asking, is anyone else out there? We looked for radio signals, we looked for biological signs, we looked for green fields on distant worlds, but perhaps we were asking the wrong question. The lesson of our visitor is not just about biology or technology, it is about connection. Whether that object was a hollow ship built by ancient hands or simply a piece of a frozen planet thrown across the galaxy, the result is the same. It proved that the spaces between the stars are not walls, they are bridges. We are not isolated on an island, we are living in a vast interconnected ocean. Things travel, matter travels, stories travel. There is a profound comfort in this realization. It means that the solitude of the human race is an illusion. The very atoms that make up your body, the iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, the carbon in your breath were cooked inside the hearts of giant stars that exploded billions of years ago. We are not just living in the universe, we are of the universe. We are the universe experiencing itself. When you look up at the night sky, you're not looking at a stranger. You're looking into a mirror. You're home. This brings us to a new sense of responsibility. Before this visitor arrived, we might have looked at the sky as a blank canvas or a resource to be conquered. Now the sky feels different. It feels alive with history and potential. Our responsibility is not to conquer, but to witness. We are the custodians of this little corner of the galaxy. Our job is to keep our eyes open and our minds humble. The arrival of the traveller taught us that we do not know everything, and that is a beautiful thing. A mystery is not a problem to be solved, it is an invitation to dream. So let us accept that invitation now. Let the heavy weight of the day fall away from your shoulders. Let the questions of what and why and how dissolve into the soft darkness. It is time to enter the cosmic dream. Imagine, if you will, that you are lifting off from the surface of the earth. You are weightless, light as a feather, floating upward through the clouds. The noises of the city, the traffic, the voices all fade away into a gentle hum and then into silence. You rise past the atmosphere where the blue sky turns into a deep velvet black. You are drifting now, safe and warm, carried by the invisible currents of gravity. Below you, the earth is a glowing jewel, blue and white, spinning slowly in the dark. It looks so peaceful from here, wrapped in its blanket of air. You drift further out past the pale silver face of the moon. It watches over you, a silent guardian that has watched over the sleep of every human who has ever lived. You're moving effortlessly into the great dark. Around you, the stars are not just points of light, they are steady burning fires of white, gold and red. They do not twinkle here, they shine with a calm eternal light. Imagine you are floating past the great planet Jupiter. You see its swirling storms painted in bands of cream and rust, moving in a slow, hypnotic rhythm. It is a giant sleeping in the dark. You float past Saturn, watching the sunlight glint off the billions of pieces of ice in its rings. They turn slowly round and round, a perfect circle of silence. As you drift further, the sun becomes just another bright star behind you. You are out in the deep ocean now. There is no sound here. There is no wind. There is only the feeling of infinite space. It is not empty. It is full of peace. You are surrounded by the dust of creation, the faint glowing clouds of nebulas where new stars are being born. Imagine a cloud of purple and blue gas spanning light years across, glowing softly, like a nightlight in the bedroom of the universe. In this space-time does not move like it does on Earth. There are no ticking clocks, there are no deadlines. There is only the slow, majestic rotation of the galaxy. One full turn takes 200 million years. Breathe in that slowness. Let your own breathing match the rhythm of the stars, in and out, slow and deep. You are safe here. The universe is vast, but it is not scary. It is the womb from which we all came. You are held by the same forces that hold the planets in their orbits. You do not need to hold on to anything, gravity has you. You can let go of your thoughts, let go of your plans for tomorrow, let go of the past. Here in the starlight there is only the present moment, a moment that stretches out forever. Feel the coolness of the deep space soothing your mind. Imagine the darkness as a soft, heavy blanket pulled up to your chin. The stars are the nightlights watching over you. You are a child of the cosmos drifting in a cradle of stardust. Sleep is coming now. It arrives like a gentle tide washing over the shores of your mind. The images of the planets and the stars begin to blur, becoming soft and fuzzy. The light is dimming, turning a warm, comfortable grey. We have travelled a long way together, you and I. We have chased mysteries and touched the edge of the unknown. But every explorer needs to rest. Every journey must have a pause. You have done enough for today. You have thought enough. You have felt enough. Now it is time to simply be. As you drift into the deeper waters of sleep, remember that the universe will still be there when you wake up. The stars will keep burning, the planets will keep spinning, the mystery will wait for you. You don't need to carry it anymore tonight. Sleep now. Let the darkness hold you. Let the silence fill you. You are part of this beautiful, endless dance. Good night, traveller. Good night to the stars above. Good night to the world below. We will meet again in the light of a new sun, ready for the next journey. But for now, sleep. Deep, peaceful, dreamless sleep. Good night.